OCHNA, or OCHNA SERRULATA. Some people call it Mickey Mouse plant. As you can see, it's got lots and lots of berries on it, because now we're in the month of November. This is its fruiting time. And it's one of our worst weeds because it's, as you see, there's lots of berries and it's extremely difficult to control it. You either have to dig it out with a lot of digging or use herbicide, and I'll show you how to do that. How would we know this is OCHNA if it didn't have berries on it? Well, you can look at the foliage and you can see it's very finely serrated leaf, quite a tough leaf, not very big, about 2 centimetres long. And when it's growing actively, the new growth is quite bronze. And in spring it has very attractive, quite large yellow flowers, I think with 5 petals. It's a garden escape, originally from South Africa, but now it's really a bad weed in the bush because it can grow in all sorts of soils. It can cope with drought, wet weather, and as you see, because of all the berries, it's a great proliferator. Birds love it, so they spread it around into good bush, other people's gardens, and a lot of the berries simply drop on the ground, germinate right there, and you can end up with thickets of OCHNA. And here you can see berries at different stages of maturity, even on the one where there's been one flower, like here. Some of them are black and ripe and ready to fall. The other ones are green, they're not ready to drop yet, and these ones are even less mature. But if we're going to deal with this plant, we'll get rid of the berries first, and I'll show you how to do that. I'm pulling off all the berries, whether they think they're ripe or not, because it's much quicker to just get rid of the whole lot of them. We don't want them to drop on the ground. We try to get a good handful of berries and just rip them off over the bag. Another way to deal with the berries is to cut off some of the little stems they're attached to and just bag the whole lot. But the important thing is that we don't want to cut off a lot of the foliage because we want to keep that. Because when we use herbicide a bit later on, that foliage has got to be there to help the plant absorb the herbicide and allow it to do its job. There's no risk of pulling the leaves off because they're attached quite hard, harder than the fruits. It is beautiful, but it's a real nuisance. It's really impossible to dig them out, and undesirable too, because you don't want to dig up this whole bank or disturb other plants that are nearby. What I've got here is some Roundup herbicide or glyphosate, which is not diluted. It's got a bit of blue dye in it so we can see where it is, and I've got a strong knife. This is typical of OCHNA in that it has been cut back in the past and it's now got sprouted up again with more than one stem. Here's the main one, here's another one, and the side shoots coming off right down near the base. So we're going to have to deal with all of them. You can't just do one. So what I do is, on the big one, I'll just do this with the knife so that the inner part of the tissue is exposed where the sap is moving, and I just put a dribble of herbicide on it and just leave it. And you can do a bit more up here. Doesn't hurt to do about 10 centimetres as regulation. Now that's a fairly thick stem, so we should do another one round the back. And if it's thicker than that, you could do 3 scrapes like that. And the important thing is that you do put the herbicide on within 15 seconds and just leave it. Now, here's a side shoot here. This is a separate little stem, so I'm going to have to scrape this one as well as best I can. And you can see at the back here, it's the main part of the stem is going down. So I'm just scraping some of the earth away, and I'll do a big scrape, best scrape I can here, and do that as well. Now the other thing you can do to make sure the herbicide gets right up into it is just break the top off. We're just snapping it over, bending it, but we don't want it to come away. So see how we've just made an opening there, but we've left bark that's connecting this bit to the lower stem, and we put herbicide on that. And I would also do that on some of these other thicker stems, like that. And you just leave it. It's not a pretty look. If you've got it in your garden at home, you just have to put up with it looking dead. And in, I think, 3 or 4 weeks it will have dropped its leaves, and I'd wait a little while after that before you cut it down, because you don't want to cut the plant off too soon. This is one of the seedlings that's grown from the plant we've just dealt with, and I'm not sure about trying to dig this one out. If it was a bit smaller, you can have a go like this. Put your knife down, and remember it's got a long taproot, about as long as the knife blade. So you could put your knife down and try twisting it, and you might be able to get it out if the soil is soft like it is now, but you may not. And if it breaks off, I think I am going to get this one. Here we go. You can see how big the taproot, and you see also this bit here. Now if the soil was dry and I'd just pull that instead of putting the knife in, it would snap off at that kink there, and then it would grow again. I would lose sight of that stem and it would grow again. If you've got lots of seedlings, and often there can be dozens and dozens of them, and there's no reason to avoid spraying, herbicide will kill them when they're that small. Otherwise you can scrape them like we did the big one in that way and put herbicide on there, but we have got this one out. OCHNA is a stubborn plant to get rid of, and you do have to know the techniques about how to use glyphosate by scraping the stem and breaking the stem further up the plant, and of course you get rid of the berries. And if you do that, it will slowly die. It's important to do all the stems, because often each shrub might have been cut back in the past and it might have multiple stems, and you have to do each stem with the herbicide.